Have you ever heard of King Mátyás of Hungary? Well, he was a great king. Righteous, good-hearted. He really cared about his people, and from time to time he dressed as a poor man and went out to see how his subjects were getting along. He walked from village to village, from place to place, to see how the people lived. And when he died, people had a saying, and they have been saying it ever since. King Mátyás died, and the truth is gone. Now I'd like to tell you about the day and the time when King Mátyás was visited by the King of Prussia. They greeted each other like old friends. And they made a big feast in the evening. And as the jar was passed around, the King of Prussia turned to King Mátyás. Well, I heard that you have a golden lamb. Is that really so? King Mátyás was smiling. Well, indeed, I do have a lamb among my flock with a golden fleece. But that's nothing. Listen up. Among my shepherds I have one who has never ever lied. Oh, come on, there's no such a thing. Of course he lies. No! He has never ever lied, and never will. There's none like him. Look, I'll show you that he lies, for I will make him lie. I will trick him into lying. Now King Mátyás went red, and he was almost shouting, I'll wager anything that he only tells the truth. I will give you half my kingdom if he tells but one lie. As I will give you half of mine if he doesn't. So they shook hands on this. And then the King of Prussia immediately went back to his lodging. And the next day the first thing he did was to dress up as a poor man, and he went out to the fields to meet the shepherd. When he arrived, he greeted the shepherd. Good day and God bless you, shepherd. Good day and God bless you, your majesty. The King of Prussia looked at the shepherd. How do you know who I am, that I am a king? Well, I can tell from the way you talk. All right, shepherd, listen to me. I heard that you have a golden lamb in this flock. Give me that lamb, sell me that lamb, for I will give you a sack of gold and 2 horses beside that. Alas, Lord King, how could I give it to you? King Mátyás would hang me immediately. Then he started promising even more. I will give you 2 sacks of gold. How many horses do you want? But no matter how much he promised him, the shepherd would not be swayed. So the King of Prussia went back to his lodging with a heavy heart, for he couldn't trick the shepherd. And the King of Prussia went back to his lodging with a heavy heart, for he couldn't trick the shepherd. When he arrived, his daughter looked at him, for his daughter was there with him. And she was looking at her father, asking him, My dear father, what happened to you? You look like the 3-day rainy weather. What's the matter? Tell me, please. Oh, my dear, you shouldn't even ask. But then he started telling her about how he was trying to get the shepherd to give him the lamb, but how he wouldn't do that. And then his daughter was smiling at him, and she said, Look, dear father, don't worry for a second, for I will go myself and I will trick him so that he will have to lie." And the princess took a box of gold and a bottle of fiery wine, red wine, and she sat on a horse and set off for the fields. And when she arrived, of course, she started asking for the golden lamb. "Oh, how could I give it to you, princess? It doesn't even belong to me, it belongs to the king, and he will have my head if I give it to you." But then she went on, "Give it to me anyway. After all, I am a princess." And she went on, chatting and chirping and teasing him. And she opened the wine and she lured him into drinking a glass, and then another one and another one, until the whole bottle was gone. And then the shepherd got fired up so much that he went up to the princess and whispered into her ear, "Dear princess, you can have the golden lamp. Just please stay here with me for tonight." Well, she lingered for a while, and then she turned to him. All right, let it be so. Flay the lamb and eat the meat, for I will only need the fleece." And this is so it happened. She stayed with him, and he flayed the lamb and gave her the fleece. And she went back to her father's lodging, and they were rejoicing over having tricked the shepherd at last. And what about the shepherd? Let's go back to him. The next morning, as he woke up, he was talking to himself. What have I done? What have I done? King Mátyás will have my head for sure. What will I tell him? He took his coat, his staff, and his hat, and set off for the palace. And on the way to the palace, he kept thinking, what would I tell the king? What could I tell the king so that he doesn't find out what really happened? As he was walking, he caught sight of a mouse hole by the side of the road, and he had a thought. He put his staff into the hole, and then he put his hat on the staff. He retreated a few steps and started to speak in the king's voice. "What news from the grange, dear servant?" And then he bowed, as if he was standing in front of the king. "Oh, nothing, Lord King, except that the golden lamb is gone." "The golden lamb is gone? What happened?" "Well, your majesty, it fell into a well." But as soon as he uttered this lie, he was filled with fear, and he heard the voice of King Mátyás. "You lie, for then the rest of them would have fallen in two. Why only the golden lamb?" So he took his staff and his hat and walked on with a heavy heart. And as he was walking, of course, he saw another mouse hole. And he did the same. He put his staff into the hole, he put his hat on it, as if it was the king. He retreated a few steps, bowed, and he heard the king's voice. "What news from the grange, dear servant?" "Nothing, Lord King, except the golden lamb. The golden lamb is gone." "My golden lamb is gone? What happened?" "Well, a wolf has eaten it." And then he immediately heard King Mátyás shouting, "You lie! for then it would have eaten the rest of them too. Why? Why only the golden lamb? So he took his hat and his staff and he walked on, but when he saw a third mouse hole, he gave another try. He retreated a few steps and he was hearing King Majas. "What news from the grange, dear servant?" "Nothing, Lord King, except the golden lamb is gone." "What happened?" "It has been stolen." "You lie, for then the rest of them would have been stolen too. Why only the golden lamb?" So he took his staff and his hat and walked until he reached the palace, the beautiful golden gate of the palace. And there he knocked on the gate. And King Majas was already waiting inside with the King of Prussia and his daughter, and they were eager to know what kind of a lie he will come up with. As he entered the throne room, King Majas looked at him. "What news from the grange, my dear servant?" "Well, nothing, Lord King, except the golden lamb is gone." "My golden lamb is gone? What happened? Tell me, shepherd." "Well, forgive me, your majesty, I exchanged it." "You exchanged it?" "I exchanged it for a black one." "You exchanged it for a black one? Where is that black lamb? Tell me." "Oh, your majesty, she's sitting in between the two of you." Then King Majas went up to the shepherd and rejoiced. "Oh, my dear servant, you really are a good servant, for you do tell me the truth. And for this I will give you half of the Prussian king's kingdom." And then the Prussian king looked at him and he said, "Well, then I will give you my daughter, for I can see you have already tasted each other." So this is how it happened. This is how the truthful shepherd became the King of Prussia. This was my story. Every word was true. If you understood it, take it. If you liked it, tell it.